Okay folks, here's our second method, and this is often referred to as the displacement method. Why? We'll see in a second. Now, what we're going to imagine is we've got this piece of plasticine, okay, but we're not going to do anything to the plasticine. We're going to keep it in its original shape, okay? To measure the density of an irregular object like this is quite difficult because there's nothing we can really measure easily with a ruler. So we're going to chuck away the ruler. That's not going to be one of our pieces of apparatus. What we're going to use today are two things. Okay, first thing, we're going to use a measuring cylinder, and that measuring cylinder is going to have some water in it. Okay, it's going to have some water in it, and I've pre-filled that water level. All right. We're also going to use, as obviously as we should do, is some scales. Okay. Now I'm just going to angle the camera so that you can see this a little bit more clearly. All right, because it's really important that we kind of know our process here. What you're going to do first is you're simply going to put your measuring cylinder on top of the scales. Okay. Now at this stage, just to make my life even easier, I am going to zero the scales. Okay, and what that means is that anything that's added on to this is going to read a non-zero reading. So currently, we're kind of tricking the scales. We're making sure that it reads 0. Okay. Now what we need to do, okay, in order to measure our density is measure that volume and mass. We're going to use that water level in order to measure the volume. We're going to get right down and we're going to get our eyes level with the water here. Okay, and I can see that my water's initial value is 25, 30. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to note down my volume. I'm going to call that V1, and that's going to be 30 milliliters. The way we make that accurate is making sure our eyes are level. Okay, and then very simply, I'm going to put my piece of plasticine into the water, and we're going to see what happens. Now, obviously, as that comes up, all right, you may have noticed a little problem with my experiment there. Okay, my plasticine goes down, okay, but the water level will go up. All right, now what we need to do, first things first, is record that new water level. Okay, and that new level of the water is at around about 36 milliliters. Okay. Well, how do we get the volume of the plasticine? Well, in the case when we put a solid object into the water, the increase in the volume of the water is just due to the volume of the plasticine itself. So if I know the initial and the final, then all I have to do is find the volume by taking 36 from 30 and measuring 6 milliliters. Therefore, the volume of my plastic there is 6 milliliters. Okay. We need to know something else, which is the mass. Now, helpfully, because we zeroed it, the mass is just displayed here, and we've got a mass there of 9.30. That is the mass of the thing we added. In other words, the mass of the plasticine. Now, you notice a little issue there when I dropped in. I wasn't very careful. All right, some of the water splurted out at the top there. If I was doing this really, really carefully, I might want to think that, maybe repeat the experiment, do it again, because obviously, actually, I may have underestimated my volume of my plasticine by doing that. Okay, so when you're doing your experiment, maybe try and do it a little bit more carefully than me. You could tip your measuring cylinder so that it slides gently in, but the general process is exactly the same. Okay, so this would be our volume, this would be our mass. We could use these again to calculate the density of our plasticine. Looking forward to seeing your work.